Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick, our discussion of the Knick. It is episode 3, the Busy Flea, which turned out to have some direct relevance.
Absolutely.
Very dark episode, literally dark. I had to turn up the contrast on my television. All of a sudden it was like, oh.
Yeah, they're not going to help you with the show in terms of like lighting things so that you can see things. They want to light things the way they were lit back then. Yeah. And screw you if you can't tell what's going on. But actually, sometimes that's annoying, but in here, I don't mind. Because it really does help you focus, and it gives you that sense of like...
It's a sense of time and place, which is very, very good in the show.
I mean, when Algernon's down there trying to get things done and you can't see anything, you feel the pressure.
That's exactly right. All right. By the way, Robert Abele, Ben Mankiewicz. Let's take a look at a little preview of episode 3.
Well, Mrs. Alfred, let me take a look at you and see what remedies I can offer.
So when we said little preview, it was a little preview. That was a little bite size. I didn't realize it was quite that short. All right, so let's start with syphilis because
because it started with syphilis. The show started with syphilis.
I asked you before, like I think everybody who watched the show and was into it, like you see this, I pause it and I instantly Google syphilis nose.
Yes, I actually did too. I actually typed in more. I thought syphilis nose falls off. That's I think I wrote all those words. And yet still something came up that told me that yes, apparently this was not unheard of.
Yeah. So Wido in her apparatus, or what did he call it? Apparatus. Why is her apparatus not? Why isn't the nose?
Why doesn't the nose not, like at least look like
vaguely her skin color? That seems
maybe because this was just that kind of time where like the idea was everybody needed to know that you were not
syphilitic,
that you were not.
Tough go. So this woman, she's had been with 2 men in her life. One of them, John Thackeray.
I mean, sometimes you watch these shows and you have this fantasy like, oh, it would be fun to live in the. And this show is just with every single 15 minutes, you're just going, oh God, I do not ever want to go time travel.
When I was less mature, and I thought I want to go back to the old West, like I think that would be cool, but I want to go with my money now. So I just want to go with a checking account that has $17,000 in it because that's like $10 billion in Deadwood.
Often part of the fantasy that when you want to go back in time.
Right, and so then you'd be like, and you come up and you go to a whorehouse and they're like, it's $4, and you're like, $4? I'm going to spend the day here and I'll be back tomorrow. I can do this forever. And then you realize, wait, your nose is going to fall off. You're going to get syphilis.
Well, and imagine if you're a woman and you go back in time and basically you've married this person who goes off and you can't control your husband going off and sleeping with whores and then bringing syphilis to you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There was a nice line that she had that she was too ashamed to tell her husband. She wasn't too ashamed to sleep with her husband,
right?
But too ashamed to tell him that she was a syphilitic whore.
Yes, yeah,
I was interested. My last syphilitic point will be: it's amazing that it's the first show. If something is dramatic and can be shown on television as your nose falling off from syphilis, I'm impressed that this is I can't believe Deadwood didn't have somebody without their nose.
Well, yeah, I know it's kind of funny because it's a scene that both shows you the horrors of living 100 years ago and also the fabulousness of modern technology that we have an actress who gets to play a scene with no nose that they just take out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's CGI, right? I guess it's gotta be.
It's kind of funny, but I guess we're assuming that it's CGI. But what if they found an actress who doesn't have a nose?
Who has and that she obviously now you could have I'm sure a very good prosthetic, but you could take it off. But I think but it's whatever it is, it's amazing. And that profile shot was really the more telling shot, I thought, which was, anyway, it was a powerful moment.
And then you juxtapose that with Algernon basically losing a patient to the most, now the most commonly treated, things like a hernia.
Right.
And you just kind of realize how screwed up things were.
Yeah, I guess each episode, there's going to be 1 or 2 moments of, oh my God, how could they? And I think what's really interesting about the show is that it begins with this speech from Thackeray, essentially, at that funeral of, we're on the cusp of amazing things.
Right.
But then a reminder, as much progress as we made in 20 years, but man, we are not there yet, because we still haven't done a cesarean yet, successfully, and everybody's dying there. The guy dies of a hernia, and they can't put a prosthetic nose on. They can't even, and when he's describing what they're gonna do, and she's gonna have her arm tied to her face, and then he kept everything. Half of the steps when she asked him to take her through it, he's like, yeah, we'll attach your arm to your face. We'll hope the blood flow goes. We'll remove it. We'll hope the blood flow. We'll hope it holds. We'll hope there's enough cartilage.
Which sounds amazing to this day. I mean, even though they were doing this back then, it sounds like an amazing thing.
Right. It sounds like it's not going to work.
Right.
But it is amazing that they had figured that out, that they'll leave it there so it'll be healthy skin. It'll create its own blood flow.
Mm-hmm.
But
and then on top of that, you have to deal with, like, during the surgery, a nurse like basically reminding you by saying, "Oh, you have no life," and how horrible, and until he has to say that great line. I think, what is it, like, if you don't stop talking, I'm going to sew your mouth and your nose shut and happily watch you asphyxiate.
Yeah, because that's the nice touch. Is not just sew your mouth. It's
and happily watch you asphyxiate.
And we obviously have what would appear to be a budding romance between the nurse.
Do you think it's a budding romance?
I do.
Interesting, because I'm not convinced yet.
I mean, someone will want the romance. Maybe he'll think it is, or maybe she will.
He just seems like somebody who's so, between his drug use and his commitment to the hospital, like he just has no time to even like.
No. Budding romance, they'll sleep together. She'll imagine it's something else, but he's clearly incapable of that. Although, he had been with this woman. It's not like he hasn't had serious women in his life. And then typhoid.
Which seems to be growing in importance with every episode. Like, we're going to clearly reach a point where it's kind of maybe an entire episode of dealing with typhoid.
A great juxtaposition between, I guess, I don't know anyone's name in the show other than him. That's readily apparent.
Thackeray?
Other than Thackeray, right. But between the hospital administrator, who we like, the progressive, she's great. Her parent and her dad might be great, but her mother, so she literally thinks that, of course, being poor, the immigrants breed the disease, and the mother, just even then, like, again, I love somebody who in 1900, it's like, it does not, it's the conditions.
Right.
Anybody living there would get it, no matter how wealthy you were. If you lived like that, you'd run the risk of typhoid. And so then she's not a crusader to the point where she's like, no, if we can save this rich kid, like this needs to be studied, not because they're rich, but because this is something else.
Exactly.
It's spreading in a different way. And I like how she got him to acknowledge that. Like, that was just a mature television conversation that they had.
I mean, but like watching The Wire, which is always a sense of, like, people would talk about the things they wanted to do, and then you would get excited. Then then the story would just basically depict how it's like one step forward, two steps back. I mean, that's what this show feels like too. It's like they talk about these things, So it's great the episode when the African American is installed, but like he can't do anything. And now, I mean, watching him in this episode was truly heartbreaking.
Running through
that was my favorite scene. Was him running through. I mean, that was just a great. That told you everything you needed to know. That's great writing, great directing, great acting.
Because the best part of that is what doesn't happen. Is at no point does anyone say to him,
"Oh, I know. Can I help you with?
Can I help you with something? You look like you're in the middle of something important."
Yes, exactly.
Maybe I could assist you.
No, in fact, what they're probably assuming is that he's not even a doctor.
He's not a doctor. He's just some black guy running through the hospital with blood on his hands. Right. We should call the police.
Yeah.
Race, I guess, you of course, this, in a sense, that has to be mostly what this show is about. I mean, it's going to be about two things. It's going to be about progress, and yet a lack of progress then for the other thing staring right at them. I mean,
or progress so hard won that it just doesn't feel like.
Right.
Yeah, its effects, you're not going to feel the effects right away. It's going to be so hard won that it's hard to watch.
But how, the extent which these guys will go to not, until, I guess, no, even at the end, I mean, even with Thackeray, it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to tell him and get his help, but I'm still not going to let him touch your patient.
Yeah, and aren't you imagining, like, what's going to happen when they find out what he's doing down in the basement? Right. I mean, I keep thinking, how is that scene going to play?
Right.
Is it something where Thackeray will go, will Thackeray go like, oh, if he's that committed, then, or will it just be like the thing that makes him go, okay, well, now we can fire him? Right.
And I'm sure he'll want to, but we know from a TV point of view that probably is not going to happen.
No.
And just dump the body in Murray Hill. Somebody will find it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of interesting when the hospital administrator, when you find out that he's clearly stolen his wife's pearl earrings, and I thought, oh yeah, he's got to do that to pay for all the things. And you find, no, he just wants to give them to his prostitute.
Right. No,
okay.
We're gonna make it. Right. Not even his mistress.
Yeah.
It's his hooker.
Just a hooker. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah, that was.
That was kind of one of those. Oh.
There's a nice touch, though. It's a nice little bit of mystery. I mean, he is that is a messed up guy.
Right.
Anyways, good stuff,
Yeah.
and really, I mentioned Deadwood, and I really think I said this in the first episode, but time and place just so good. Like Soderbergh has done what Milch and those directors did.
Yes.
Like take you somewhere where you feel like this is what this was like.
Absolutely. It is the most atmospheric show on television.
I think maybe my favorite line of the show, other than I'll sew your mouth and nose shut and watch you asphyxiate.
That's not my tooth.
That's not my tooth was really good, but Dr. Thackeray thinks oranges are free here.
Oh yeah, from last
No, was that 2 weeks ago?
That was last week.
I saw the last 10 minutes of the last one. It was good stuff though. All right, so look, I'm into it. It's fun.
Oh, completely.
I love the Knick.